going to do another tarot reading. And thank you again for joining me today. And it's been a whirlwind of a week. I feel with all the retrogrades happening, and I was featured on a couple podcasts to talk about astrology, to talk about tarot, and another podcast should be coming out, I think either tomorrow or Monday. So I did Tarot Bites. It's Teresa's podcast. So Teresa, the Tarot Ladies podcast. I'm really excited about that. And I did Women Who Brunch. I did that podcast also this week. So a lot like kind of going on behind the scenes. But I've also been doing a lot of client tarot readings. So if you want a reading, definitely email me, DM me, hit me up. I'm still doing readings this month, and I'll probably get a little bit crazier towards the end of the month, but readings are back on. So so before we get into the spread, I'll just talk about what's on the altar. I have Spoilia Tarot here, my favorite tarot deck. It has the astrological signs as well as the 4 elements. And then I have Morgan's Tarot as an oracle deck. And then I have Postcards for Liminal Space as another oracle deck. So we'll be using those. At the end, if we have time, maybe we'll pull one of the animal spirit cards. And then I have Oracle of Oddities and this planetary deck. So a lot of decks. I feel like just in the future, my entire altar is just going to be like a bunch of tarot decks I'm just going to pick through. But it's fun. It's fun to use your new tools. And we're going to do a Saturn retrograde spread today. I have my ebook like on my iPad, but of course it's dead. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? So thankfully, 21st Century, what up? My laptop is here with the spread to save the day. So if you want to purchase my ebook, it's available in my stories, as well as I have links in my bio. I was like, how do I promote this? But yeah, so that's where it is. I'm just gonna get to shuffling the cards. Oh, I am on the altar. I have fluorite, my favorite witchy fluorite, smoky quartz. I have rose quartz incense burner, and then some amethyst, boop-de-doop, coming into play. And then sage and Florida water. So I'm gonna cleanse these. So, I don't know. It's just like, I can't believe it's Saturday already. Like, the weeks have been going by so fast, and I can't get my head wrapped around it. I'm like, how is it already Saturday? But at least the weather's getting warmer, so I have that to look forward to. I don't know. Like, what have I been doing? It's just been all over the place. I just feel like with everything's going on, it just keeps you so much more present and aligned with your life. You're just every day you're just living like literally day to day, and that's something I'm not really used to, because half my mind is like in the future and the other half of my mind is in the past. So it's like, oh, what's consciousness? Is consciousness ringing a bell? That's what a card is in Morgan's Tarot. So we'll see. But okay. So I'll put these aside for later. Okay, so hopefully Jim Morrison from The Doors will pull through some of his Sagittarius energy, some of that good energy. But I just been listening to a lot of like 60s, 70s music. Like a lot of like 60s, 70s inspired music has been my MO for the past couple days, and I love it. I love it. I wouldn't have it anyway else, but I'm like, there's something about the 60s and 70s. I wish I was a flower child back in the day. I mean, maybe I was, like, reincarnated, but but yeah, I'm like, I wish I could go back in time and see a door show, but I try to make up for it today for all the concerts that I used to go to before COVID, but just something about live music, just, it strikes differently. I've also been doing every week some tarot deck reviews because I have so many decks. I'm like, I just need to do a little video about them. So if you want more of the images, if you want to see more of the images of the cards that I do, you can go on to my YouTube and check them out there. I have a couple. I try to do one every week. So yeah, it's been an interesting couple of days since all of these planets been going into retrograde. We have Venus retrograding in Gemini, we have Jupiter retrograding in Capricorn, and then we have Saturn retrograding in Aquarius, and then in July it's going to go to Capricorn. So it's interesting. But I don't know, it's like the retrogrades, I feel like it's good reflection periods for us. So we'll kind of see, like, with the Saturn retrograde spread, what's going to kind of come through. But so one thing I did buy recently are more crystals, because you know me, I love a crystal. So on Everyday Magic, where this deck is from and where my crystals are from on the altar, they have these skull crystals, and they're so cool. So my friends and I have been snagging them because it's really rare that you find reasonably priced skull crystals. So I'm just like waiting for them to come into the mail. I'm like so psyched. I think I got like 6. Your girl went a little overboard, but there's no time like the present for some crystal healing. But yeah, I feel like I want to start writing more about crystals, and because everyone's been asking more about like crystals and what type of crystals to get and use. So if you'd be interested in that, that would be totally cool. And I'm going to start doing more of like crystal healing and like more crystal inspired posts on my blog, because magic is immediate and it's real, and crystals are so cool. But yeah, I'm just ranting about crystals like a crazy lady. Who am I? Okay. Alright, so the spread is all laid out, and I'm just going to be glancing this direction because that's where the spread is. Yeah, just get comfortable, have some water. So this is a Saturn retrograde spread. So Saturn's retrograde right now in Aquarius. And for those of you who were born between 1991 to 1993, you're having your Saturn return right now, also known as me. So Saturn is a very difficult planet. It's a karmic planet, it rules discipline, and it's a planet that it puts you through like a lot of trial and error. Like it makes you go through a lot of hardship to kind of renew you. It's not like I'm going to give you this lesson by something minor or something subtle happening. You're going to get this lesson. Like this is an influence that is very heavy and can be very drastic, because it goes through a new sign every 2.5 years. So it just went into Aquarius on March 21st. So, and then it's now retrograde and for the next 4.5 months. So it is a very, it's going to be interesting to kind of see like how our brain is going to be rewired to reflect on some areas in our life having to do with groups, having to deal with friendships, people, the collective that we find ourselves in. And also once it goes into Capricorn in July, we're going to be really reflecting on our careers and our status in the world. Like, do we like who we're bringing forth into the world for other people to witness? So that's going to be coming up for the collective over the course of the next couple months. But anyways, so let's go into the spread. So question number 1, what from our past is being brought back into focus? So we have the King of Cups here, and it's interesting because we have Venus retrograde in Gemini as well. So, I think we're going to be really trying to dismantle this romanticized idea of partnerships and people that influence us and how they've influenced us in the past. So it's cool. Like this card, I'm not offended by this card, but I still feel like there's this review going on with the masculine that we're having in society right now because of the shift that we're going through. And with the King of Cups, it is a figure or aspect of ourselves that we can rely on and we can go to for guidance. And are we compassionate towards ourselves? Are we able to give ourselves that compassionate guidance or give that back to others? And maybe now with this retrograde happening in Aquarius, happening with friends, happening with groups, the collective, and our own individual imprint in that, maybe we're kind of thinking about, well, what groups do I want to form? What have in the past, like the social groups, the organizations that we've been in, how has that influenced you? And how do you want that either to continue or to stop? Like there's going to be like this group collective review we're going to be going through. And like personally for me, being at home in Michigan, I have been thinking about, oh, these are the groups that I've been in my life, and this is how they have molded me. And there's some nostalgia to that. And I feel like there's some nostalgia here with the King of Cups of, maybe it's the coach that you really looked up to on your track team, or maybe it's the class president and there was something that you idolized with them. Like there's going to be like these characters coming into view and just to reflect on. And it can be very dreamy. It doesn't have to be like a negative thing. Maybe it could be a negative thing. But I feel like with the King of Cups upright, it's more of a nostalgic feeling of who in the past that we maybe looked up to or maybe was leading us. How has that influenced us? Is that card Obama? Do we miss Obama? I don't know. And it doesn't have to be a masculine person, like a male, just because it says king, but it's like, who's the king in your life? Are you a king in your own life? I like to think I am. But I feel like, and if you don't feel like you are powerful or, you're of influence, you're of, some type of guidance towards someone, yourself, or, something, then, maybe that's something to change. Maybe it's your turn to lead a revolution instead of relying on other people for you. I'm going to pull a clarifier. This card is like hauntingly stalking me, but it's what a time to be alive. And I feel like it's kind of sarcastic, especially with the retrogrades and with COVID, it's like, what a time to be alive. It's like, well, I'm grateful for my physical body. I'm grateful for my health. But at the same time, it's like, this is not a time that I'm really celebrating, but we have to celebrate in different ways. And maybe, it's just what a time to be alive for us to actually sit down with ourselves and reflect on this type of persona, reflect on this duality in our lives of who has taken charge, who have we allowed to take charge, and how can we take charge after this retrograde. We're just going to be reflecting on a lot of things. It's what are you not seeing in your life that you need right now in terms of groups, in terms of friendship, in terms of connection? So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so we're going to go on to card number 2. Where do we need to apply more patience? So Saturn's all about patience and discipline. So hopefully patience isn't a trigger word for some of you, because it is for me. It used to be for me. I'm like, oh, I don't like patience. So where do we need to apply more patience? So we have the 3 of Swords here. And a lot of us will be healing some wounds. Maybe there's some, as you're reflecting on the collective, maybe there's some groups that you're trying to heal from. It could be a hate group. It could be also, maybe you had a group of friends. Like, we all go through different changes and shifts of friendships in our lives, and you could be having nostalgic feelings and trying to heal broken friendships, like repairing broken friendships at this time. And that's the work that Saturn in Aquarius wants us to do. It wants us to reflect on past hurt within the collective. Like, how has the collective failed us? How have people failed us? And maybe we were led to believe that their cause was, good, when really it was not what it was supposed to be. We've all been led down that path. We've all been, like, treated unfairly and been through mistrust in people. And I feel like we have to heal that at this time. It is calling. And if you don't feel it, like, today, because literally this retrograde has only been happening for a couple of days now, you'll start feeling it towards the summer, towards the next 4.5 months that this retrograde is happening. You'll be feeling this nostalgic wave of trying to heal, like, your heart, in terms of disappointment in groups, in terms of broken friendships and relationships, and trying to repair them. And either, if it's not too late, you can still proactively repair those friendships, and maybe it's a great time with the quarantine. You have more time to dedicate to healing these aspects or mending these friendships. Like, we all have friendships that are hanging on by seams or by threads, or we kind of didn't maintain. We all have that because, life happens. We get busy and we get fixated on new friendships. We get fixated on, people coming into our lives and new opportunities. And that's what really was happening with the past 2.5 years when Saturn was in Capricorn. We were so fixated on our careers and trying to create status in the world. I mean, you just see the revolution of Instagram within the past 3 years. Like, no one really knew what an influencer was until now. An influencer is something you put on your resume. So it's like we were so fixated on the career sector and on the status sector that we kind of put friendship and connection on the back burner. And now it's coming up for us to review before it goes direct again in September. We're really going to be like, okay, over the past couple months, I was able to reconnect with these people that maybe I, over the years, kind of lost connection with. Or, now I really want to make sure I have these type of friendships instead of falling into these type of friendships or relationships. Like, whatever it is going to be coming up. And, like, when I see this card in this position, I think of Sims. I don't know if any of you have played Sims, but it always had, with the relationships, it was like a percentage, like how close you were with someone. And the more your sim hung out with someone, it would be like green. It would be like 100% friendship, like this is your best friend because you were constantly by them. And the less you hung out or were around someone, it depleted. And it was like, oh, you were once best friends, but you didn't hang out with them for like a week in Sim World, and now you're like, not really good friends because that relationship wasn't maintained. And that's how I see relationships in life. I have that, like, sim concept. Like, like, who your best friends are, like, your top 10, and, like, the people you're constantly texting. Like, the importance and value of the people that you're constantly interacting with. But you also have to, if you want to, maintain the friendships that aren't in your top 10, and it takes time. And I feel like a lot of us collectively was not doing that work because we were so concentrated on our own material gain and worth. And now we're faced with the Three of Hearts. We're faced with trying to mend brokenheartedness within ourselves or mend friendships that, like, fell off the radar. And that's okay. Like, I don't see this as a threat. I feel that this is just necessary work that this retrograde is calling for us to address. And it's fine. It's fine. And also that's a great connection with Venus in retrograde as well, because we also are going to be reflecting past hurt, past relationships, and what we've moved on from. And that's what the retrograde periods are all about. It's like reflection. And it's necessary to kind of take a breather when you're constantly going forward in life. You kind of have to work your way back before you can fully embrace who you truly are. Okay, so card number 3. What is testing our patience right now? So we have the Four of Swords here. So, you know, we do have like a pattern here of the 3 and the 4. And, you know, swords are conflict cards. But it's more so because we choose to engage on a mental level. And the mental level inspires the physical action, which wand energy for sure. But with the 4, you know, it's kind of just like you need to let your dead rest. You need to, yes, you can pick up the knife and you can, you know, reflect, and you can constantly work on, you know, whatever you need to work on that's showing up for reflection. But at the same time, you also need to find retreat and refuge. Like, don't feel like you constantly have to dig deep into yourself. You constantly have to dig the knife into yourself in order to get the best results. Like, this is a process. It's not going to be something you can just complete in a day. Oh, I, you know, resolve that like relationship. I like text my friend who I haven't texted in like 5 months. Like, it's great. My sim bar is back to 100%. Like, no, like you have to maintain it because it doesn't become off as like phony. It's like, oh, hi, I just reached out of the blue, and then, you know, I'm not going to hear from you again for like another, you know, year. Like, we want to, if we're going to purposefully commit to repairing relationships and commit to repairing aspects of ourselves, we have to make sure that we're consistent in that process, because friendship is consistent, love is consistent, because it's a choice, and that is where the nurturing ability comes through within that choice. And if you're choosing to, you know, just to do this because you're in the moment and you feel like you want to reach out so that you can prove that you're a good person to them, blah blah blah, it's like that's not where your intentions really need to lie. Your intention needs to lie if you really choose to continue this friendship or this, you know, continue being this part of group, if you want to do it or not. But the Four of Swords is showing that you need a retreat. You need a place of refuge. You need to escape like the mental chatter in your mind. And, you know, this could be like sleepless nights. Like, if you're having sleepless nights or anxiety about something and you wake up and you're faced with the Three of Swords, you need to try to find some compassion, find a way through navigating that emotion. Punk clarifier. But it's okay. It's just like, it's steps. But these are minor cards showing through. So it's like minor steps that need to be taken, minor lessons, but just making sure it's genuine. If a relationship that needs mending is keeping you up at night, then maybe that's a sign you should put time and energy towards it. But if it's not really keeping up at night, it's like, if you don't feel like, oh, I really want that person back in my life, or, you know, whatever, it's like, think about it. Think about how this person makes you feel, or these people make you feel if it's a group. Like, think about it. Like, do you want to go back to the softball team? Like, do you want to join that club again? Like, think about it. We're all in groups. We all find ourselves in situations where there's a collective of people. And sometimes, like, you can only put your time and energy towards the group when you want to. Like, you don't want to be fully embraced in it. So we have this, like, circle. And I just think this really rings true to Saturn with the karmic lessons it brings. Because what goes around comes around. And this is the Morgan's Tarot. So it is, like, more trippy, and it's made in the 60s. So that's why we're having, you know, a card that kind of probably doesn't really mean much. But, there's this like quote that men see things in a square room and women see things in a circle room. Like, we can see, like, there's no corners, we just see everything as a whole. And I feel like Saturn shifting from the masculine energy of Capricorn to Aquarius, like, we are starting to, again, we're adjusting our lens, we're adjusting our third eye to see a more feminine perspective. And that's what's coming through with why this is in the past. And, like, the past readings I've been doing, it's like the masculine is in the past positions, because we're moving away from that dialogue, those thoughts, those conversations, those influences, and we're going more into a feminine shift. And, you know, we have to start thinking about things in a circle, like in a round room where we can see everything, and then we know that we're an equal part of something. And that karmic lessons, like, if we decide to reach out to someone or repair a relationship, you know, what is that doing for our karma? Is it the right relationship to mend and it boosts our karma, or are we playing with fire and we're trying to resolve a relationship or be back in touch with a relationship we know isn't good for us. And that's where the contemplation lies. Like, make sure you're healing your heart where it's supposed to be healed. Like, sometimes closure doesn't need to be reinforced. Like, you know where you lock the door and you bury the key, and like sometimes you need to keep that door locked. Like, don't keep on opening it. And I feel like that's where the Four of Swords is. Like, have some type of like, contemplate where you want your karma to go. Contemplate what people you really want in your life, and if it's worth your time and energy. Because what comes around goes back around. And also, people in your life that you're trying to mend, do you really think they'll give you that love that you're going to give to them? Like, are you going to get the same amount of reciprocation back that you give? So, yeah, I feel like I was talking in circles, but pretty much you know what I mean. Okay, so number 4, what are areas in our life that we need structure and discipline? So we have the Emperor reversed, and not surprised here that we do need to try to find some structure again in our lives. And I feel like the collective energy can go in the right direction once we all decide where it needs to go. Like, we don't want it to go in these masculine structures now, so we have to find a way to cultivate it into a feminine structure. But with the Emperor reverse, we also have to try to get off of our own throne in a way. We have to take a break from dictating our lives. We have to take a break from trying to dictate the lives of others in our life as well. Like, we need to rest. We need to pause. Like, there's a rest here with these 2 cards, like a retreat. Maybe it's just you need to take like a meditation retreat, like in the woods, like having walking meditation to kind of clear your mind and how to heal aspects of, your life that have disappointed you. But the disappointment, there's grace in that, because you can try to move forward and be a better person, and you then get realigned to who you really are. But at the same time, we have to understand that we are our own king in a way. Like, we're our own emperor. We still have power, and you can't have that power be taken away from you. So we just need to have more structure and discipline and trusting ourselves. And I think that's what the shift with these retrogrades are trying to show us, is that the power really lies in our own hands. And that was the general theme happening of like my reading last week, is that we have the power, we have the potential to create change and to cultivate a new structure. But the structure is going to look like this. So there's a process, because how are we going to get from this to this? It's through this, because we have to learn how to heal in order to see something different and to want something different for ourselves. And that's okay. This is a major arcana card, and it's Aries energy, and Aries is all about the self. It's all about, I am this. That's what it rules in astrology. And like that persona of trying to figure out who they are. And we all have that. We all have a first house. We all have an ascendant. We all have a rising sign that kind of shows us a little bit more of who we are and how we think about that and how we show that to the world on a physical level. And with the Emperor reverse, it's like, we have to take ourselves off of our own pedestal. We have to take ourselves out of our own throne and really reflect and be like, well, am I a good friend? How am I really impacting the collective? Or am I still stuck in this Capricorn energy of just fighting for myself, trying to have my career be the best, trying to make money, trying to have the status of, CEO or whatever. Like, that's shifting. Like, that's not really important, but we can still be important, but we have to figure out how to do it differently. So it's time to kind of put ourselves in timeout and just reflect and be like, okay, do I really like what I'm doing? Do I really like the people that I'm hanging around and giving my time and energy towards? Do I feel like these relationships are beneficial for me in the long term? Like, this is not short term energy, because Saturn doesn't do anything just for the hell of it. It's doing this for your own benefit, and it wants to realign you with this Aquarius energy to the right people who are really going to make you a better person, not only for your own skills, but so your skills can help the general collective. Because we have to get right within ourselves before we can really help other people. If you're not right within yourself, you're just going to come off as phony, arrogant, and a fool. And Saturn doesn't want us to be a fool. Like, we've been a fool for a while, hence this card. But we're no longer, we can no longer be the fool in our own life. Like, we have to take a break from the behaviors and the attitudes that we have been putting ourselves through kind of blindly, and trying to lead differently and do something differently this time around. But we need reflection for that. So, but we'll get there. This is a 4.5 month energy that we're surfing. Number 5. So how will we be restricted and limited during this time? So we have the 4 here, 4 of Cups. So we have a lot of 4 energy showing through, and the 4 of Cups has been appearing a lot. Like in my own personal life, and then through clients I've been reading, the 4 of Cups has been prevalent. And it's a heavy card. There's a lot to talk about with the 4 of Cups. And we'll be restricted and limited with the amount of opportunities that will be coming to us on an emotional level. And that's with the Cups here. And we'll always have opportunity come to us, but it's up to us to be discerning if we want to take that opportunity or not. And that's what the Saturn retrograde is going to bring forth. It's like, okay, I'm going to test you with friendships. I'm going to test you with relationships. I'm going to test you with aspects of yourself where you feel like you need to belong to something, because we all have to belong to something. Like, we're human, like we need the connection. But with the 4 of Cups here, it's going to show that it's going to be limited. It's going to be limited because of the social distancing. And maybe that's a blessing in disguise to have less options, because then you can really focus in on honoring and mending those relationships and embracing those relationships that are close and dear to you. Because that is going to be your coven. That is going to really make who you are through this shift. And you know through quarantine who you've been texting, who you've been FaceTiming, who you've been constantly like sending memes to on Instagram. Like, those people in your life who are a part of your soul and who are going through this with you and trying to make the best of it until things get a little bit, you have a little bit more freedom. But Saturn is restricting us, and that's what it does. But it's restricting us in the 11th house of friendships and the collective. It's restricting us. Eventually it'll start restricting us in the career sector as it goes back into Capricorn. But our groups are getting smaller. The people that we're caring about, we're putting more emphasis into that. And there's beauty in that. There's beauty in kind of having not as many options, because the more options you have, then your energy gets scattered. But with the 4 of Cups, you have choice. And you'll always be guided, and you always will have opportunity come to you. There's never going to be a lack of anything in your life. Just because you choose, maybe if someone's trying to reach out to you, like an ex or something, with the Gemini in Venus retrograde, and maybe an ex is going to be reaching out to you, you have the choice to decide if you want to take that cup, if you want to take that opportunity to reach out to them. You have the opportunity to not do anything. You can turn your back on that and, realize that was the past. That was the old me. That was the old me who would have done something like that. But now I'm seeing things as a whole and how I'm part of a whole. And it's interesting too, because on the CoStar app, my CoStar lesson for this time in my life is, how do I see myself as a whole, as a part of it all? And that's how we have to start thinking, like, how do we see ourselves as part of it all? And that is what we kind of have to contemplate. Like, are we really being valued in our groups? Are we being valued in the world? Now that we're off the throne, now that the emperor is off the throne, and he's walking into the people, he's, the people that he's dictated and he's been with, he's seeing them, he's embracing them. Do they embrace him back? Once you get off the throne, and you embrace the people in your life, do they love you back? Do they care about you? Will they bend over backwards for you? Will they help you through crisis? And if you don't have those type of people in your life, then it's time to heal your heart and kind of contemplate, well, why? Why don't I have people in my life who care for me? Why don't I have, lasting friendships? And, it's because maybe your focuses were on the material. But the material can only get you so far. The material doesn't beat your heart. Like, yes, the material can get you this, but it's cold, Connection. We can't speak to each other. It's just a vibe. But we want to get closer to making sure that the relationships that we honor fill our cup as well, and they keep our cup full. And then we know that they're always going to be there no matter what. And that's what we want to move towards, and that's what Saturn wants us to move towards, is those beautiful connections, those soul connections that are rare and that are meant to be part of your soul contract. And you know who those people are. And if you don't know who those people are, then it's time to find them. And Saturn will guide you in time to find those people. Because they're going to reflect an aspect of yourself. Like what you attract, it speaks to some truth within you. So yeah. Okay, so card number 6. What karmic debts need to be paid? So we have the Hangman reversed here. And again, it's just going back to reflection, because last year it was the year of the Hangman in Tarot, and this year it's the year of the Emperor. So what does that mean? So the Hangman is all about suspension. And, with this, I feel suspension is great because you don't constantly move forward. You kind of have some time to reflect, kind of like the Four of Swords energy here, but this is kind of more of like a night terror that's keeping you up at night. But the Hangman, it is putting itself through suspension mindfully. It's not just like forcing itself to hang upside down. It mindfully wants to be in suspension, to reflect on things, so that it's not just moving forward into the abyss without a clear mind. So there's beauty in the Hanged Man energy, and I definitely feel that we need to kind of reflect back on how we were feeling last year, reflect back on the relationships and the partnerships that ended last year, and why you put yourself through that and how you got out of it. And it's fine to contemplate. Like, this is all we can do with the retrogrades. There's 4 planets in retrograde right now, and then soon it's going to be 6. By the end of June, we're going to have 6 planets in retrograde. So it is kind of Hangman energy, because we do really need to sit back and contemplate, okay, what have we learned in 2019? What are we no longer doing in 2020? What has this pandemic been teaching us? Like, there's a lot of learning lessons coming through, and that is what Saturn does. It's the teacher. And we have some karmic debts. There's a lot of parts of ourselves, like, we're moving through, and we're trying to heal. And it's minor. A lot of it's minor. It's minor, like, little annoyances. It's minor triggers, things that we're contemplating, things that we still have to face with. Because a lot of our lives are on hold. And a lot of us, maybe, if you're furloughed at your job, you ultimately have to go back to that environment. So how are you going to prepare yourself to deal with trauma of the workplace once you go back? You were out of it for a little while. Now you got to prepare yourself to go back to these environments, go back to these group of people that you work with, or whatever. Like, there's a lot of like karmic debt within the groups of people we find ourselves in that we have to heal. And how are we a part of it all? Are we part of the trauma? Are we part of the toxicity in the groups? Do we have to find a group that actually connects with us? What friendships did we partake in last year? What relationships did we partake in last year that we thought was giving us enlightenment or were great, and then through the pandemic you've realized they haven't really been in touch with you? Are they really your friends? Like, it's weird, but this energy is kind of great because it is bringing back friendships from the past that maybe you haven't really spent time cultivating in a while, and it's kind of fun. It's fun to connect and reminisce with childhood friends, with college friends, like whatever it is. like for example, in my life, like tomorrow I'm meeting my best friend of 12 years. Actually, no, not 12 years. It's been longer than that. We met when we were 12. So like 16 years. And that's kind of like how this energy is showing through. It's like, this friend has been in your life for all this time and they're still there for you. That's a friendship that you want to cultivate and continue to cultivate. And a lot of us will be, seeing a lot of people for the first time in a long time, hearing from people from the first time in a long time, reaching out to friends because we have the time. I'm going to pull a clarifier. And we have money, bitch slots. Showing up of Hanged Man. And I just think that, it just comes with the reflection. Like, we just really idolized money. when Saturn was in Capricorn, we just really idolized it. We really idolized our careers, and it's fine. Like, there's no harm in trying to want better for yourself. But at what cost? And the cost was phony relationships, not maintaining friendships, not really aligning yourself with the right people, trying to network with people just to make a coin, not trying to connect with people for mindfulness most of the time. And that's what the Hangman wants us to reflect, is like, okay, last year we were caring all about the material, and now we have to get off the throne of that daddy energy, of that masculine energy, and start reflecting on what we can cultivate to make sure our cup is always filled with a more feminine lens. So, yeah, it's happening. And card number 7, how will our career, our work status, and the world change? And we have the Ace of Cups reversed here. So, we're not going to have like the easy idealisticness that we once were able to just channel so effortlessly, especially with Venus going retrograde in Gemini. It's hard to cultivate a lot of emotional attachments sometimes, especially when you're trying to heal your heart. But it just shows like the priority is not really money right now. The priority isn't really the tangible materialistic assets as it was last year. We want to fill our cup with something different. We don't want to keep filling our cup with money, because again, money is cold. It doesn't warm our hearts. It doesn't feed our soul. It buys us things, it makes us happy when we have the money to buy things that we like, but that is only a temporary feeling. Like connection, love, compassion, that's a forever feeling. And that's what we have to understand. It's like we have to start filling our cup up with the right things. Because if we keep filling our cup up with money, we're only just going to have money. We're not going to have anything of value, of real value. Love and compassion and commitment, that is what value is. That's where the value lies, and that's what we need to cultivate. And, we have to get our mind wrapped around that new idea, that new version of ourselves. Like, we're still fighting for these career prospects. I mean, we have to work. I'm not saying, we can't work. Like, I'm saying, like, we need to just look at a job as one aspect of ourselves, not who we are. And some people identify themselves with a job as who they are in this world, and that's not true. Your soul is not your job. That is just the work you do, to survive, or maybe to cater your talents, but that's not really who you are. That's not your soul contract. Your soul contract is the type of love that you give, is like the beauty that you're giving to this world, like your artistic and creative abilities, your voice, your personal power. That's not your resume. Your resume isn't that. And that's what the Ace of Cups is calling for us to heal and revitalize. So we need to start aligning ourselves with finding a job, a career, or some type of work that fulfills us, and then that we can give back to others. Where's my deck? I wanted to pull a card from Oracle Oddities. I just did an unboxing video of this on my YouTube channel, so I really suggest you buy this deck because it's so cool. I'm like in love with this deck. Okay. So we have worship. And this is a sit card. We have the worship card here. So, again, we just have to worship something different. Like the Emperor is stepping down for a little bit. We're stepping down from our thrones. We're stepping down from our titles and our status. With this Capricorn retrograde energy happening. And we're going to be worshiping something else. We're worshiping healing a new heart. And that's the work that Venus in retrograde is giving to us too. Because Venus only goes retrograde every 18 months. So it hasn't been retrograde since 2018. So again, reflection. Where have we been in 2018? Who were we in 2018 versus who we are in 2020? That's some work that we can do. Like, just try to find the growth. The Hangman wants us to see the growth that we've gone through. And there's beauty in that. But it takes time, but it's not a rushed energy. But also Capricorn, Jupiter in Capricorn is retrograde, so we also, again, it's just another sign that the Wheel of Fortune is turning. The Wheel of Fortune is, we once had like career and we had status in the world on top of the wheel, and now it's at the bottom of the wheel. And we're getting off that ride. And that is what the Emperor reverse is referring to. We're getting off that ride and we're falling back into Hangman energy, contemplating, suspending ourselves on purpose to reconnect with ourselves. And then once July, we're going to have 3 planets in Capricorn retrograde. So it's just the masculine, the materialistic power is just really going to be hindered and reflected on before we go into a feminine shift. And before we start worshiping a new energy, and that energy is feminine, and that's going to resonate with everyone, and it's going to be a very beautiful energy, calming. Let's see how much time we have left. We have 10 minutes. I'll pull one of my planetary cards. Just to kind of see what's up. Interesting. So we have the first house of personality. This rules Aries. So what I was talking about, it's like the self. We're going to be worshiping a new version of ourselves. Who we are is changing and molding, and it's beautiful. It's fun. Like, Aries energy is fun. I mean, I know because I'm an Aries, but it's fun to create a new you. It's kind of fun to reinvent yourself. And also we have Chiron in Aries for the next 7 years, and I have a blog post all about Chiron and Aries, and I taught a class in Brooklyn over the summer about Chiron and Aries. So we are healing the first house, and we're healing aspects of ourselves. Before we can really mold into this new being that we're trying to cultivate, we have to go through the changes. We have to go through the reflection period of who is dying, like what aspects of ourselves are dying, and how are the relationships in our life reflecting that death. Friends that we thought we couldn't live without are no longer part of the seams of our lives, and like relationships, like things are going to be changing. There's going to be friction in relationships, because when you decide that you want to change, it's going to not only affect you, it's going to affect everyone around you, and either they can keep up with that vibration or they can't. And that's when you decide that you no longer want to accept faulty energy. But that's what the first house is. This is Aries energy pulling through. It's like you're getting off of the throne, you're stopping old patterns and belief systems, and who you thought you were is changing and altering, and you're creating a new sense of self. And Aquarius and Aries is very compatible energy. So with these retrogrades happening, there's supports. But your friends and the people you love, they'll help you in this change, and you're going to help them change as well. It's going to be reciprocated. There's going to be support there. Like, you're not going to have to do this alone. Like, you are not alone in this uncertain place. Like, there is going to be people to catch you when you fall, and to help untie you from this tree when you decide to do that work. And we're going to be worshiping a new version of ourselves, and that's kind of fun. But yeah, I think that's kind of the reading. Every week I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pull one of the spirit cards, but I don't know. Maybe next week we'll do it. But I feel like, you know, we're gonna really start seeing a lot of changes and a lot of realignment in our lives, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see that. But first, there's a lot of factors that need to be taken into consideration. Like, do you want to level up, or do you want to just stay complacent? But Saturn's not going to allow that to happen. Saturn's going to have you level up regardless, but, you know, it's kind of like, do you want to be an active participant in that process? It's up to you. So thank you so much, and look forward to some interesting, cool things happening this week from the Punk Priestess, and thank you for tuning in. I love you guys, and I am open now for readings. So if you want a reading, hit me up, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!